Welcome to How to Save Your Marriage with Nicola Beer, a show full of tips and practical strategies to repair, rebuild, and strengthen your relationship. If you are currently stuck wondering if your marriage can be saved, or you know you want to save it but don't know how to go about changing it, this show is for you. And now here is your host, Nicola Beer, who specializes in a proven 10-step program to help couples increase the love, passion, and happiness in their marriage in 30 days or less, guaranteed.
Hi and welcome, this is Nicola Beer and I'm excited that you are with me today because I'm going to be sharing about flirting. Flirting, is it harmless or is it cheating? When is flirting harmless and when is it considered cheating? That is a question that causes many arguments between couples. Whether flirting is in person or online, it can drive a couple apart. Today, cyber affairs are becoming more common. And so too are fallouts over the usage of social media. One of the things that husbands and wives tell me that they argue over is messages sent on WhatsApp or Facebook flirting with the opposite sex. So I thought it would be good to cover this today. If you have found messages on your partner's phone to someone else and are feeling hurt and confused and angry, know that you are not alone. Countless individuals come to me with this issue. Joanne caught her husband messaging a woman that he went to school with. It was a typical Friday night and they'd been sharing a bottle of wine and watching a movie, yet Joanne noticed that her husband's hands had been on his phone all night. She didn't say anything at first, but as the film went on, it started to bug her, mainly because he told her not to be on her phone many months back, and now he's been on his phone all week, messaging away, and was taking his phone to the bathroom. It's not right, she told herself. Who takes their phone to the bathroom and is gone for over 30 minutes at a time? He's up to something. That night, Joanne thought she may as well go to bed. Hans stayed up drinking, still glued to his phone. But Joanne couldn't sleep. She was frustrated and decided in the middle of the night to check his phone. She found a list of messages to another woman on Facebook. She looked up this woman on Facebook. They went to the same school and according to her status, she was also married. As she read through the messages, her stomach churned and she felt sick. They started sharing on normal things and then moved to how she liked driving fast cars with big engines. And then he asked her what colour she would get, and she had replied red, that she loves red. Then her husband Hans wrote, "I bet you look great naked across a hot red sports car." And it escalated from there. Joanne was furious. One, because of the messages, and two, because he hadn't sent anything or said anything to her about being sexy at all. In fact, their sex life was pretty non-existent, and she can't even remember the last time that Hans told her that she looked beautiful, she was attractive, and that he wanted her. What's wrong with me? She thought. And what's wrong with him? Why is he doing this? The next day she ignored him until she was ready to confront him. He was angry she had been on his phone and said it meant nothing, that it was just a bit of fun. This did little to ease Jo's pains. She felt lonely and ugly. Hans argued that she was overreacting and that he didn't want to talk about it again. He said, "I could go on about you violating my privacy, but I'm not. Let's just move forward." Whilst Hans could move forward, Jo couldn't. Every time Joanne saw Hans on his phone, she felt uneasy. She would try to relax, but so many thoughts and images were swimming around in her head. Questions like, why is he doing this? Who is she? Does he fancy now? Does he no longer fancy me? She confessed to one friend who told her to leave him, and another friend who told her not to think about it, both of which were unhelpful. Hans could feel her watching him and was fed up of her always thinking the worst of him. He felt uncomfortable in her presence, and vice versa. This seemingly small and innocent incident, according to Hans, was tearing them apart. To Joanne, it symbolised something much bigger. What can couples do about this difference of opinion on whether flirting is harmless or a form of cheating? One thing that helps couples best in the work that I do is to set and agree boundaries. It's beneficial to set some healthy boundaries that both parties agree on. defining what is acceptable and inappropriate. This can then be used to protect a marriage and move forward. Here are some of the questions that tend to come up that can be useful to answer together to create such boundaries. Is it appropriate to be reminiscing with exes over the good time you used to have? Is it acceptable to be discussing what you're wearing or not wearing? Is it appropriate to say to another person that they are looking hot, good looking, turn you on, etc.? Is it acceptable to be sending selfies to a person of the opposite sex? Is it appropriate to be messaging them late at night rather than engaging with your husband or wife? Is it acceptable to share that you're unhappy in your relationship? Is it acceptable to spend a lot of time with a person that is flirting with you? These are important to answer together, especially if flirting and accusations of cheating have come up. If couples kiss and make up without addressing the underlying differences of opinion on what flirting and cheating is, then the cycle can repeat. One of the most common questions I get asked about affairs and flirting is flirting harmless? The answer to this is for you to decide. I have worked with people who flirt as part of their personality. They tend to be people pleasers that like to make people feel good about themselves. It's their cheery way of addressing people in life, and they treat men and women the same. They compliment them, they take interest in them, add kisses and hugs in text messages, and flirt with them. Their intention is purely to flirt and have fun, and to make people feel good, so that they like them and also make people feel happy. Then there are people who flirt and have an intention that goes beyond words or messages. They want to gain something or manipulate a person or situation. They flirt because they have an agenda. If you're confused about whether your husband or wife is having an affair, then consider their intention behind it, and this will help you to address it in your relationship. Here are some of the key motivators for flirting and cheating. Sexual, wanting to get someone into bed. Fun, being playful, finding humour in it. Exploring, seeing if that person likes them. Esteem, flirting to increase one's own self-esteem and feel more attractive or younger. Transactional, hoping to get something from another person. Boredom, wanting more excitement or finding thrill in the risk-taking. Increased closeness, flirting inside a relationship to increase connectedness. Does that motivation list help you? Does it help you to decide whether flirting is considered a threat or not? I believe there is a huge difference between charming and flirting. I've worked with countless natural flirts that are the same to women as they are to men. They are the same to the same sex as they are to the opposite sex. They want everyone to feel good and important, so they flirt their way through life. We can all probably think of someone like that. On the other hand, flirting is using your sexual attractiveness to get something, which is why many men and women in marriage see flirting outside of the marriage as a problem. Flirting can actually sometimes also hurt people, especially when you take a flirter's actions or words seriously when it wasn't the true intention. For instance, if a flirter is only flirting to see if they can get someone to respond, and that person believes the flirter's emotions are real, they might start thinking that they can have a relationship with that person. Obviously, they'll eventually be let down when the flirter achieves their goal. Which brings me to another question that I get asked. Are cyber affairs harmless? Cyber affairs are also not as innocent as some claim them to be. It can be easy to become attached to someone online emotionally without knowing it. Flirting online with someone you rarely see or that lives miles away may seem like nothing, but according to research done on affairs and what makes people cheat, it's how emotional affairs and physical affairs start. Plus, even if it's an online affair only, it is still taking time, energy and attention away from the relationship. Often affection and intimacy between a couple is affected too, because the secret messages come between a couple. In order for fulfilling sexual intimacy, transparency and honesty is required. When one person is holding back or has their focus outside, it will be impacted. Some flirters are womanizers and narcissists, and only you can know if that applies. And if you are concerned about that, it's really important that you talk to someone that you can trust. Sometimes our friends and family are not the best people to ask because they will come to it with their own objective, with their own personal experience, with their own pain, with their own judgment, or they may say something that isn't helpful, even though they mean well, like not to think about something. I mean, if it was that easy, obviously you would have tried not to think about it yourself. And unfortunately, to clear any images, to clear circling thoughts and why thoughts and what ifs and the stress and the tension and the resentment, it takes guided support. And although in some cases flirting outside of the relationship can be fun and harmless, it can also be manipulative and devious. So I want to conclude with some key red flags about whether flirting is harmless or whether it's cheating. Red flags for when flirting is not harmless. When it's done in secret, when it's done with sexual fantasies or has a sexual nature, when considerable amount of time is given to it, where it becomes a regular addictive pattern, when a friend or family member voices concern, when it gives a person an emotional high, when dissatisfaction in the current relationship or with spouse is discussed, when it causes arguments or disagreements in a marriage, when the intentions are clearly wrong. Well, I hope that's been useful to you to consider whether flirting is harmless or cheating. I'd love to hear from you. So if you do have any comments or questions around this, do feel free to email me at nb@nicolabeer.com. From my heart to yours, wishing you a wonderful week ahead.
Thank you for listening to How to Save Your Marriage with Nicola Beer. To book your free Save My Marriage consultation, please visit www.savemymarriageprogram.com/consult. And if you've enjoyed this episode, Nicola would really appreciate it if you could leave a rating and review on whatever app you're listening through, so the show stays visible, allowing more people to get the support they need to increase their love, passion, and happiness.